First off, I am truly honored that the legislature passed SB 40 recognizing Black History Month last year. And I want to graciously thank all of you, especially you, Madam President, for the patience you've shown in listening to my many speeches this month. Today I want to reflect on the meaning of Black History Month and remind everyone of some influential Americans, African Americans in our great state, those who I've called friends, mentors, and inspirations, and I'm sure some of you might feel the same way I do. Black History Month had its beginning in 1926 when noted African American historian Dr. Carter G. Woodson initiated Negro History Week to raise awareness about the contributions of African Americans throughout the United States history and thereby deepening our collective understanding of true narratives. While the national figures I've spoken about are important to acknowledge, I also find it essential to recognize the contributions that African Americans have had in Alaska. Many of you know these people and can appreciate the amazing impact they've made and continue to make in our communities. So I'd like to take a moment to remind you of some of these change makers. The late Senator Betty Davis, the first African American elected to the Alaska State Senate, a former Alaska State representative and a former school board member. Blanche Louise Preston McSmith, the first African American to serve in the Alaska State House of Representatives. Melinda Taylor, the first African American to serve on the Anchorage Assembly and the first African American vice chair. Larry Card, the first African American Superior Court judge in the state of Alaska. The late Dr. Joshua Wright, Alaska's first black dentist, as well as a former Anchorage school board member and an Alaska state legislator. Mahala Ashley Dickerson, the first African American attorney in Alaska and the first African American president of the National Association of Women Lawyers. Vince Casey, a former executive director of the Municipality of Anchorage Equal Rights Commission. Jim Chase, former executive director of the City of Anchorage Equal Rights Commission. Willard Bowman, the first director of the Alaska Human Rights Commission and a former Alaska state legislator. Macon Roberts, a former Anchorage school board member. Pamela Scott Washington, the first female African American district court judge in Alaska. Rex Butler, the former president of the Federal Bar Association chapter and founder of Rex Lamont Butler and Associates. Sylvester Hubert, an entrepreneur, businessman, and the first African-American Texaco station independent owner in Alaska. Reverend Alonzo B. Patterson, the founder of Shiloh Community Development, Inc., Bridge Builders, and Young Lions of America, as well as the chairperson of the Alaska State Board of Parole and Martin Luther King Jr. Foundation in Alaska. Mayfield Evans, the founder of ENS Diversified Services and the former vice president of the NAACP Anchorage chapter, an outstanding volunteer in philanthropy and a meritorious service medal recipient. Ed Wesley, a community activist and former president of the Anchorage NAACP, as well as the former president of the African American Historical Society. Margot Bellany, a longtime principal and the former director of the Office of Equal Opportunity at the Anchorage School District. Margot currently serves on the Anchorage School Board. James Posey, the owner of Alaska LLC, as well as former commissioner of baseball and general manager of Municipal Light and Power. Cal Williams, a community activist, former NAACP president, and a performing historian. Joseph Tolliver, a former Chief Master Sergeant of the U.S. Air Force and owner and executive of Trail Boss Solutions. Celeste Hodge Groden, a former NAACP Anchorage president, former director of the Municipality of Anchorage Office of Equal Opportunity, former executive director of Shiloh Community Development, Inc., and currently the president and CEO of the Alaska Black Caucus. Carolyn Jones, the former Assistant and Supervising Attorney General for the Alaska Attorney General's Office, the past chair of the Rotarian Action Group for Peace, and a member of the Alaska Women's Hall of Fame. Jewel Jones, a longtime public servant and community activist, instrumental in shaping the municipal health system and advocating for services for low-income families, women, and minorities. Dr. Estrada Bernard, a prominent neurosurgeon in Alaska that serves broad community in Anchorage area. John S. Parks, known as the unofficial mayor of Fairview for his efforts to promote neighborhood infrastructure development and for crafting the first petition to create the People Mover transportation system. Eleanor Andrews, known as the civic entrepreneur for inspiring institutions, businesses, and individuals to invest time, money, and energy in building healthy, supportive community. Without the vital contributions of these individuals, Alaska would be vastly a different place. Their hard work, dedication, justice, and equality for all have allowed me to be the first African American on the Anchorage Assembly to serve as chair, and the second African American female to serve in the Alaska State Senate. I will always have the deepest appreciation for those who paved the way for me and future generations. So this weekend, I have the privilege, along with senators from District J and District D, and the representative from District 16, of honoring the late Betty Davis at the second annual Betty Davis African American Summit. I'm so excited to come together with community leaders who are passionate about the fight for equity, which continues today. In addition, I'm happy to announce that I will be following in the footsteps of some of these local visionaries and will be interviewed by the History Makers, the nation's largest African American video oral collection, tomorrow afternoon. Along with the late Senator Davis and others within the state of Alaska, my interview will be archived in the Library of Congress. What an honor. Excuse me. African American History Month celebrates the well-known figures in American history, as well as the unknown heroes who have profound historical impacts, yet those names that have been largely left out of history books. I've tried to shed light on some of these lesser-known figures this month in my floor speeches. Sorry. I know that you've all learned something about the crucial role African Americans have had in shaping the fabric of our great nation. I'll tell you, I've certainly learned a whole lot. In closing, I'd like to take a moment to thank my first Alaskan Institute Fellow, Megan Warren, I'm so sorry. Megan Warren for taking the lead on the research and drafting my speeches. And a special thank you to Jacob and Keith for editing, proofing, and their diligence and commitment to guiding me in delivering these 10 remarkable speeches. And lastly, a heartfelt thank you to Noah and Jen for posting the speeches on the Senate pages. I'm so grateful to all of you. Thank you, everybody, for joining me in this Black History Month celebration.